You've been all over it, Ross. The record 427.
Right, so he's 42 yards short of the record. They've got 44 yards they could possibly get on this drive. So if UB gives the ball to Patterson on this entire drive and he scores a touchdown, he'll break every record there ever was. Touchdowns, yards, all of them.
It's Patterson. Avoids his own lineman. Patterson shakes, spins. It's so much fun to watch.
No, what are you doing, Lance Leipold? Don't do this to me.
Oh.
Lance, no. Somebody tell him, we have a chance in history. Stop hugging him and put him back in the game. I'm trying to go viral.
They got him to 400.
Oh my gosh. No, we need another touchdown, and we need to break Samaje Perine's record. What is happening right now? We can still do this. You got to put Patterson back in, tell one of the offensive linemen to hold on the next play. So we go back 10 yards.
He's got one touchdown.
Oh my gosh.
Another.
Look at Marks. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
You rushed for 409 yards, 8 touchdowns. What can you say about just a magical day here this afternoon?
I got to give credit to the big guys up front. You know, they do a tremendous job opening big holes for me and Kevin Marks. You know, so man, hats off to those guys. You know, this was a team win. You know, offense, defense. We knew that Kent State had a high power offense, and we knew it was going to take all 4 quarters.
All right, so do you know, Jared? I have to ask you this. Do you know that if Coach had left you in for that last touchdown run that Kevin got, that you would have broken the FBS records for both yards in a game and touchdowns in a game?
Yeah, they told me about the touchdowns. I didn't know about the yards, but you know, man, I just was trying to just run out the clock, you know, so we can you know, go in the locker room and celebrate, you know, with everybody. You know, I'm not really too pressed over you know, the records. I know they will come, you know, take everybody. I just wanted to win.
Welcome to Mac Football Forever. I'm Alex Alvarado. That's Caleb Carter. We are recording on a Saturday night. Finally, this feels good. This feels like a normal college football thing to do. We don't have many of those, and you know what is normal is watching guys tie for the NCAA record. Tie.
First of all, I don't know that I've ever come to the conclusion that a Saturday game feels normal after we've gotten used to these Wednesday games for the MAC. But, yeah, a guy tied a rushing TD record, and somebody was not paying attention. There's got to be coaches or somebody in the sports department that's, like, doing this, right, Alex? Like,
No, they knew.
They knew at the end, but Lance Leipold, come on.
Yeah, he's on the hot seat. Fire Lance Leipold. If there's Buffalo might be 4-0, but, you know, he might be fireable. You know, as well. You know what I mean? Because who pulls people out like that? That's your chance to make Buffalo's history. That's like your chance to actually brand your school.
Absolutely.
And your players. Who cares if they're like, nah, man, I don't care about records. Screw it. You have to do it for the program. Get the rushing record.
Like, imagine that. Like, come here, play here. You're going to do things nobody's ever done. You can sell that.
And then settle for a little bit. Let Sammy Perine or Samaje Perine be the record holder for all time still. Let him still have it. Just let Oklahoma still have the glory.
Of all the people to have that record, it's so bizarre to me still that Perine has that, and yet he did it against Kansas, so I guess it's not all that surprising.
Yeah, and Kent State can't tackle, so I guess it wouldn't surprise me if Buffalo had that. But before we get into that, because we're not going to have all the time in the world to talk too much about a 70-point game between Buffalo and Kent State. 70 points being how many points Buffalo put up, not the difference, but still, wow. But we're going to get into these 6 games really quickly. We're going to talk about the individual performances after that. Maybe in a different episode outside of this one, we're going to have to talk about specific games, you know, the Kent State-Buffalo one, obviously. Caleb, looking at the scores from Friday and Saturday. On Friday night, Central came back to beat Eastern 31-23. And on Saturday, Buffalo beat Kent State 70-41. Ball State won in the Glass Bowl 27-24. Western hung on to beat NIU, really chippy battle, 30-27. Ohio blew out Bowling Green 52-10. And Miami made the most of its rest and dominated Akron 38-7, as they should. Caleb, where do you want to start?
Let's start right from the Friday game because that one just kind of bizarre all the way around. For starters, it's another directional Michigan rivalry game. I hesitate to say you throw the records out the window and da. But Eastern was playing like a team that did not look like they were winless coming in, and really just slowed Central down. Obviously, from the start, having a not entirely healthy Daniel Richardson at quarterback affected Central. EMU raced out to a lead, was up 17-6. Alex, you're probably going to be more able to do this than me. Try to describe what happened in that fourth quarter.
If there were any kids watching at home this game, during the holiday break, as they should, this is when their coaches yell at them and say, you have to play all 4 quarters, and the kids are like, what do you mean? This is what you mean. Eastern did not allow a touchdown by Central Michigan until the fourth quarter, and still Central won by, 8 points right there? Probably should have been 9, but, that's I'm not the head coach for Central either.
You and your weird 2-point conversion stuff.
Eastern was not very efficient with the ball. They did some good things with its RPO designs, with its read options. But Hutchinson, still had a few interceptions. They had late turnovers, fumbling with the ball too. But the turnover that capped it all off, his third interception went right into the chest of Tanner Canoe, bounced right off. Somehow hit his chest, his hands, and then his helmet. And then one of the CMU defenders that was still lurking in the area was able to get the ball from the air to get the final interception. It'll forever be known as the helmet interception game. Central didn't play its best game. Starting quarterback, it looked like it came in hurt, left hurt, and still went on to beat Eastern. So whatever I said about last time where, Central at not its best is still better than Eastern at its best, wasn't kidding.
I have a gripe. I do need to get off my chest with EMU. They got to figure out what they're doing with the speed option nonsense, because the Samson Evans fumble on the speed option killed them. And they've run it on some fourth downs that I don't like. Speed option on fourth down. I do not get why it's a staple of that playbook. Maybe I'm missing some of the plays.
I think EMU's offense walks by faith, and they die by it too.
It's rough. It's rough to watch.
Speaking of rough to watch, let's look at Western NIU for a little bit, because Western beat NIU 30-27 on Saturday. Can I tell you 2 stats from the box score? So NIU's offense didn't move the ball very efficiently, 6.6 yards per play. When it did move the ball with some sort of efficiency, it moved the ball a lot, 17.5 yards per completion in the pass game. That's not to be unexpected. Third down conversions for Western's offense, 1 of 9. How many freshmen was NIU starting on defense, Caleb? The answer is 7.
This is so absurd that Western is such a good team that does not convert on third and fourth down. And then you had NIU this week, who is a young, undisciplined team who got it done on third down. And I do not understand if it's the play calling, if it's something I've missed, if it's coincidence, what. But Western keeps finding the way to score points without coming up with big conversions. It's just big plays. I don't know.
And won the time of possession 40 minutes to 20 minutes. And this shouldn't be that big of a deal, because Western should still outscore NIU by, 2-3 possessions and still not have the ball for those 20 minutes. But NIU, to its credit, stuck around and made, a seemingly easy victory, one that didn't look very possible for a little bit, and kind of had NIU, forcing to play well late when it should have been relaxing.
Yeah, and NIU had its chances. They Bowers, who had his first 3 touchdown game as a Husky, he overthrew Daniel Crawford in a chance where they would have gone up 2 scores in the fourth quarter. Instead, it's a field goal, and Eskridge responds back with a kick return for a touchdown. So Western responded when they needed the really big plays, and it just happens to a young team like NIU. It's not really a surprise.
Ball State Toledo staying in the West for a little bit. We expected a little bit of a shootout. The game was decided by 3 points, but it wasn't decided by 3 points until late. It was kind of a Ball State. It was a weird blowout with not 30 points scored. Ball State was able to keep its distance for long enough. Kept Bryant Kovac in check. Passing game for Toledo wasn't 100% there, and Ball State's defense made plays.
I need to call myself out on this, because I think Ball State, I was very much in the camp of, they cannot make the big plays they need to hold Toledo down. I've been saying all year, Ball State does not have the defense it needs to compete for the MAC West. And here we are, 4 games in, 2 to go. They control their destiny, 3-1. Their only losses to the defending MAC champions. And they had a bunch of guys make plays. We'll talk more about who those guys were that made plays later, but they absolutely shut down Toledo's rushing attack, which nobody has done this year.
Ball State's defense had 12 tackles for loss and made Toledo lose 45 yards of offense that way too. Got to the quarterback 4 times. Against Toledo, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and even like the controlling the game on the ground without Caleb Huntley, Coach New in the postgame was like, nothing really changed from our run scheme standpoint.
Right,
Used Ty Evans and Justin Hall as some motion guy and guy to change of pace a little bit, but Toledo had 4 first downs rushing. When does that doesn't happen ever?
Yeah, and Toledo's loaded back there too. But Ty Evans, he had a good day with 4 yards per carry. Even at that pace, still got over 100 yards, so chewed up a lot of clock there. Didn't have the big plays that Caleb Huntley would have. I think his long was only for 16. But like you said, made the positive production, chewed the clock. Yeah, he helped feed into what Ball State wants to do with the ball already. He's not going to be Caleb Huntley, but he was Ty Evans, and he was pretty good at it. And,
I mean, for all the big backs they've had in recent years to continue to just, they can plug in guys and just have next man up. And it's so cliche, but they're doing it in the run game. The passing attack was efficient. I mean, Johannes Tyler, again, doing big things.
Very good. Johannes Tyler's very good.
One of the fastest climbing receivers has got to be at this type of level in football. I mean, I think you're looking
physical with his body and gets the ball all hands. It's incredible.
You're looking at him as a guy who's like, I mean, I don't think he's getting drafted, but whenever he goes to try and go pro, he's going to have a chance to make a roster.
Yeah, I mean, there are guys who got drafted out of the wide receiver group from the MAC that have gotten drafted that I didn't think were as good as Johannes Tyler is right now. That's all I'm going to say.
That's fair.
A few more games so we can close this thing out. Let's look at a blowout really quickly. Ohio, 52. Bowling Green, 10. And when I say let's look at it, let's just look at Ohio's uniforms because those are really, really good. He looked really good on Tuggle, too, because he had 3 touchdowns. But in general, the 1960s national championship throwback unis look really cool.
They've done some really cool stuff in honoring the past teams, obviously doing this with the jerseys. They honored the coach, Bob Capps, passing at the age of 92 this week, who was a part of some of those teams in the 60s that had a lot of success. And Ohio did a really good job honoring those teams by kicking some BG ass. I mean, that was kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, they were going to kick BG ass anyways, but you know what? If you're going to honor a great team like that with, for big significant importance with the coach's death, unfortunately, they did it in style and they did it well. And they did it the way that, Ohio would be proud of their students to do. So good on Ohio to do that. Miami, Akron, I said that could have been a possible upset because of the way Tion Dollard's been playing. Tion Dollard was silenced. There was just no rhythm going for Akron's offense at all. And Miami's offense came to play. So 38-7 is the final score. Brett Gabbert, welcome back, man. Glad to see you healthy and playing and having 4 touchdowns all to Jack Sorensen.
Jack Sorensen's he's starting to make me think he's like an honorable mention All-American type just because of how much he contributes at all times.
The MAC should have its own Senior Bowl. All these guys like Jack Sorensen and potentially Johannes Tyler or whatever, if they don't get the draft hype that we think that they should be getting, they should just have its own Senior Bowl this year. Why not?
Yeah.
And have the money, just all the money raised, go out to all the schools because of COVID.
For sure.
There you go, Mac. I solved it for you in the middle of this recap.
One more thing for Miami. Redhawks become the first program in the MAC to 700 wins, 31st program at the FBS level to do so. So
wow.
It's kind of crazy to think that. I mean, I know they have history and there was –
right, yeah, you have to have history to do it, but still, that's cool.
So props to them.
Buffalo, 70. Kent State, 41. In a recap episode, I'm going to have to expand on it. But really quickly from you, obviously, I mean, Jaret Patterson, right?
Right.
But what else?
Okay, so at this point, I'm watching this game with my partner, and we're sitting. I've got several screens pulled up, and I'm subjecting him to all the football I can. We get to the point where it's in the fourth quarter. Patterson, every time he touches the ball, he picks up chunks. He breaks away from the pack for that early fourth quarter touchdown where he goes 65 yards, and I just started laughing uncontrollably. That was just how I felt about watching that whole game because, for one, Kent State looked pitiful trying to figure out how to plug holes because Buffalo would go back and forth between like stretch plays and zone plays that are just essentially just similar, and they pick up backers on, like, they climb to the second level. Guys would get to the linebackers, and then just everybody be occupied. Patterson would make the right decision every time and pick up 10 yards seemingly every play. And there was one play in the fourth quarter where he gets a carry on a stretch play to the left. So everything's supposed to go off tackle toward the left sideline. He just cuts it back, hops over his own fallen lineman, and takes it for another 12 yards. And I'm just like laughing the whole second time. Like, this is the most absurd performance I've ever watched in the MAC.
And,
like
and
one of the most absurd. He got pulled out.
Second all-time single game rushing performance behind Samaje Perine. 8 touchdowns ties the record. 400 and whatever yards is second most. First in the MAC, of course. First in school history, of course. After he already owned the school record last week of 301 yards, I think it was.
Yep. And even on top of that, like, Mark still had another 80-something yards or 90-something yards.
97.
Yeah, so Buffalo actually set a record for most rushing yards by 2 backs.
97 and 2 scores. That's a good fantasy day.
Yes, it is. Most rushing yards for 2 backs in an FBS football game. 506 rushing yards between 2 running backs. And Kent State knew it was coming. Van Treese threw the ball, how many plays did Buffalo run? Probably 70-something.
Buffalo ran 75 plays, average of 8.8 per, only threw the ball 21 times. Anybody
who listened to our last episode interviewing Kent State beat reporter Alan Moffey said the only thing he's essentially worried about is you have to slow down Patterson first after the game we just had. That's your number one priority, period. A little bit easier said than done, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if, there was, all the game planning and all the stuff in the world, you kind of knew that they were coming out. Even if you knew nothing about Jaret Patterson coming in, you knew he was going to get all the touches in the world if you had just seen the guy play against your team for one drive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because his first carry went for 40-something yards, was very close to a touchdown, followed up on the next play. He didn't have to warm up to it, right? He didn't have to find a rhythm. He didn't have to be like, okay, how are these defenders, blah, blah, blah. No, he was there. He's the shit for a reason.
To a certain point, I would have rather have just seen Kent State go single coverage, no safeties, just put as many bodies in the box as humanly possible, and just let him burn you 2 or 3 times before you back out of it, because, Patterson was doing the same thing regardless. So you might as well change something.
The final point I kind of want to make on this before we leave this discussion, I kind of thought, I didn't like the way Sean Lewis coached the game early on. He went for an early field goal inside the 10. I think it was inside the 5-yard line, too, on the first drive, instead of going for the touchdown on 4th down. Which, I understand early on you want to get the points, but, you're Kent State, you need the points, and you can get the points. So why not there? So I didn't like that. And there was one point where he, you're going to laugh at me for saying that he should have went for 2. It was when he could have made it would have made things a 3-score game, closer to halftime, I believe. And there was a punt that he went for middle of the third quarter when his offense was still kind of rolling. I know I said punt, which means 4th down, but he still could have gone for it and kind of needed the points at that point too. And there were just some other conservative play calls sprinkled throughout. For as aggressive and as fun as just happy-go-lucky as the Kent State offense, 1, brands itself out to be, 2, is most of the time. I was just surprised to see Sean Lewis kind of play timid a little bit and just kind of settle for field goals and, for punts here and there when he should have been a little bit more aggressive in opportunities where he should have been. Obviously, it didn't matter at the end of the day, but if in much more normal circumstances, if Jaret Patterson could have just, been stopped for 5 touchdowns, which is still a ginormously crazy day, it would have been a more manageable game, and Sean Lewis probably could have edged out a win.
This matchup,
but you didn't think that Lance Leipold was going to dig out his game shark at this week. So
all I'll say is this matchup of Kent State's front with their game plan against Buffalo's front was the biggest mismatch in football I've watched in a long time.
Mr. Carter, we went over the games. Now let's kind of look over some of the individual performances. Let's kind of highlight some of these names on here. We got helmet stickers to give out. Got all the names up on the screen. Got their stats there so you can all see. You've probably seen some box scores already. But I'm going to start. I want to give one out to pretty much everyone on Buffalo's O-line. I'm going to take your lead on this.
Hey.
9.5 yards per rush for Buffalo's O-line. Jaret Patterson, he broke some tackles too. Kevin Marks did a fantastic job himself, but holy crap, does it start up front.
When the other team knows exactly what you're doing, same type of play design over and over and over, and you just continue to repeatedly run it down their throats, Buffalo's line is amazing. That's fantastic. Otherwise, Malcolm Kuntz and Tyrone Hill, another couple guys that have continued to make plays on defense. So props to those guys for stickers.
Probably staying in that same game, some more helmet stickers I want to give out. Isaiah McCoy, he had a nice touchdown in that game. Mm-hmm. There weren't too many huge explosive plays from Kent State's receivers, so we can't give out too many there outside here. But Deshaun Polk did have 7 catches for 124 yards. Isaac Vance did have 6 catches for 45 yards. The defense, though, they didn't really come through too much. Zion West had 12 tackles, but, only 1 tackle for loss for defense. So better luck next week, and you guys will get some stickers.
I mean, how about looking at Miami and Akron? Because obviously Miami not playing a little bit and Akron having a little more time to prepare, you would think maybe some good stuff from Akron. Not so much. However, Kyle Romanek, 8 punts, 42.5 or 42.6 yards per punt. I really like that. That's a really good number for 8 punts. That's some MVP territory right there when your offense is that bad. But
yeah. I mean, we don't have any other offensive players out here because there just wasn't very much production.
But how about you? I mean, Brett Gabbert, right?
Yeah, Brett Gabbert, he came back, played strong. Him and Jack Sorensen had 4 touchdowns together. He had 308 passing yards. So good day out of him. Mac Hippenhammer. Mm-hmm. The Mac Hippenhammer.
Ayo.
Manny Rugamba had a 62-yard pick six. Love to see that.
Cam Butler was all over the place, too. That was fun. Fun to see what he did as well.
I kind of want to look at Friday night really quickly.
Really quick.
I really don't. But Terry Myrick had a big day. Where he has 17 tackles, half tackle for loss, which, whatever. But you're flying everywhere, 17 tackles, making plays there. There was a couple of turnovers caused. Alvinoski LaFleur, he had
really good football.
Yeah, he had a forced fumble at the goal line. Love to see that. That's his second red zone turnover of the year. And Hassan Badoun, receiver, had a 100-yard game receiving.
And there are guys playing really good defensive football for EMU, so props to those guys. And, Tariq Spates and Kempton Shine, 26 combined tackles between the two of them. And shout out to you for, giving Terry Myrick the credit last week when we brought him up in MAC Defensive Players of the Year so far.
Credit to Terry Myrick for giving me credit for, having a credit to give.
NIU Western. The ones that stuck out to me even in a NIU loss is 5 pass breakups for Jordan Gandy, which is kind of just absurd.
Insane. I mean, that might have been the biggest difference in the score.
I don't know if it was just them targeting him or what. I'd love to see how many times his side of the ball was targeted, but that's still
at least
ridiculous.
5. At least 5.
Other stickers. Other stickers going to Ross Bowers. A bigger day than he's had in a while passing the ball. Dennis Robinson with a passing touchdown. He's a guy they've wanted to break through for a while. And then Tyrese Ritchie, 12 catches, 131 yards in the tutty. He continues to just be consistent, just really reliable.
D. Eskridge didn't have a touchdown. He had 7 grabs, 130 yards.
He had a kick return touchdown.
Yeah, he did have that. Sky Moore, he was the only one with an offensive touchdown out of the receiving group. But if we're talking punters, let me point your attention to Nick Mihalik. 6 punts. 51.7 on average.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Sure, they're not stoked about him punting the ball that much, but when Western's not having as good of an offensive day as they've been having, that's pretty decent. Otherwise, A.J. Thomas, really good, more good defense from him. Continues to rack up stats. Ralph Hawley, a defensive tackle. Defensive tackles do not get a lot of credit, but it's easy to talk about guys who go 8 tackles, 3 TFLs, 2 sacks, and otherwise guys like Brandon Fisk. So another good week for a number of Western defenders.
Ball State, Toledo. Johannes Tyler, we already talked about him. Drew Plitt, we've said enough about him. Anthony Epke, I talked about him a few weeks ago, right? But Bryce Cosby, man, you are everywhere, defending the pass. Good on you. Brandon Martin, 12 tackles, 2 behind the line of scrimmage, helped keep Brian Kovac in check. One of the game plans that needed to get done to get that dub, which they did.
Only other one we got on the agenda, Ryan Lerman, 2 touchdowns for Ohio in the win over BG. Demontre Tuggle, another big rushing day, 185 yards, 3 tutties. And then Bowling Green, Andrew Clare, 100-yard rushing game. Outside of that, really ugly. So we'll move on from that.
Oh, yeah, I want to give a shout-out to Nate Bauer because he had a big interception for Toledo. But if Toledo would have just made that interception, the drive after that into 7 instead of 3, maybe it's a different game. Caleb, in the preview episode last week, I asked you if any of the then 2-1 West teams were still kind of in it for the West race, and you said Toledo. Now it's starting to look like after the Toledo loss to Ball State, it's starting to look like Ball State is more in the race than we had previously expected. They still have Central and Western to go, but how far out is Ball State from overtaking Western in the West race?
I think what we kind of saw Ball State do, some of the things this week that they needed to do to make that climb. And for one, Western showed itself to be vulnerable, and Ball State's defense showed that it could make plays, big time game-changing turnover plays. Obviously, they kind of had to scrap to hold on to that lead late, but Ball State feels like a team that might actually eclipse Central because of the issues that Central has shown. Yes, Central can run the ball. Yes, like they are the defending West champions, but Western Michigan's felt like the best team in the West all year. And after seeing what they did against NIU, I don't think it's out of the question at all to see Ball State come out on top and win a tiebreaker scenario because of how put together they are in spots.